G'day everybody, lovely to have your company on this Saturday afternoon. My name's Tony Squires. Nice to have the company of Ryan Girdler, Wade Graham and Buzz Rothfield once more. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
G'day, Tony. Hey, boys.
Tony, how are you, mate?
Very, very well, thank you. I've got a little spring in my step today. Have you been watching any of the games, any of the Olympics?
Watching a little bit of it, mate, and good afternoon, everyone. I enjoy it, mate, but that time difference.
It's terrible, isn't it?
I don't mind the difference because you start to sort of get everything on in the night, and then because I got the young kids, right? So we watch a little bit with them, and then we put them to bed and get to sit up on the couch. And I must
till
admit,
4 a.m. for the finals?
Now the golf started, I could be doing all nighters, but I didn't mind watching the replays of the finals. But I must admit, before the Olympics, I was neither really here nor there. I knew they were coming, but it wasn't something I had sort of locked in the calendar that I was looking forward to watching. But I've loved it. I've been watching heaps of it, watching a lot of the replays. Obviously, it's great to see the Aussie women in particular killing it over there.
We start strong, don't we, boys? We always start strong with the pool events.
Yeah.
Then we sort of start to fade out a little bit, Tone. But it has been good. The girls, especially in the pool, have just been outstanding.
Well, Gerd, you're in a similar situation to me because my boys, the mixed descent. They come from, Canadian and Australian. They've already worked out that they can hedge their bets. Like
they can claim each.
4-year-old and 6-year-old.
When Canada playing Australia in the basketball, where were they going?
Whoever was winning, that's what they go for.
I love
guys, isn't it funny, we're talking about women in sport and, the growth of it over the years. And they're the biggest names in Australia. Like Ash Barty a couple of years ago. And before that, Kathy Freeman, and then the Matildas, and then these lovely swimmers, and
when Jess Fox.
Jess Fox.
Yeah, amazing.
They're so dominant.
And the boxers. Oh, no, sorry.
Oh, yeah, good on you, good.
Nice,
Sorry.
kid.
I thought that's where you were going, Buzz. I thought you were going to start off with some controversy straight away.
I've made it my Saint and my column tomorrow, mate. Women in sport.
Yeah.
It's sensational. For those who haven't caught up with what happened just last night, as we know, it's been going and we've done very well so far. But Kaylee McEwen, another superstar, she's now gone back-to-back Tokyo and this games in both the 100 metres and 200 metres backstroke. Just extraordinary. 4 individual gold medals never been done by an Australian
First time
athlete.
ever done.
Never been done by an Australian. In any sport, on any planet,
How good's that?
never been done. This is, absolutely remarkable. She's still got the 200, I think, the individual medley to go. I think Summer McIntosh might be favourite for that. But she swam that. She basically jumped from the podium where she got a gold medal, had to run down to the other end and dive in for the semi-final of that event. Absolutely amazing. Cam McAvoy is a great story. 4 Olympic Games he's been to, this guy. He was in the 50 metres. Different style of training he decided. So he's kind of doing weight work. We only swim about 200 metres a week. So it wasn't...
Amazing story.
And then he comes through and gets his first gold medal at his 4th Games in the 50 metres. Just brilliant. And the other gold medal was Saya Sakakibara.
The BMX, was it?
Yeah, BMX,
Yes.
the racing. She was knocked out, remember, in Tokyo in that event, and her brother had a really serious injury and still affected a brain injury, and she said, I'll do it for you. She did it for him.
Lovely, mate.
Yeah. What about how fast they go on and just...
What is it? Because are there different events for the BMX? Like, is there a trick event and a race, or what?
There are those ones where they kind of stand on the front wheel and do all that kind of stuff. This was racing. No,
that's the
just
freestyle,
racing,
is it? That's the BMX freestyle, and then the racing, mate.
Logan Martin is the guy from Australia in that. But she won the racing one. Absolutely amazing. All right, we are talking footy as well here this afternoon, all heading towards the kickoff this afternoon. We've got the Storm and Dragons as well, but we've got the Broncos who really, really need a win. The results so far, the Roosters 40, the Dolphins 34 at Perth. We'll get to that very, very shortly. The Cowboys 48 beat the Tigers 30. Chad Townsend will join us later in the show. And the Warriors season, or has it come screeching to a halt with the reinvigorated Eels 30 over those Warriors 20. Just quickly in news, Buzz, what's it? Justin Olam from that high hit, what has he copped?
2 or 3 weeks.
Yep.
A bit of controversy, wasn't there? Split opinions, but, when it gets to match review, they stop it. They look at the high definition, 4K, all that. And
They flip the coin in there sometimes as well.
they do. Look, they're not consistent. What did you think of it?
I think it warranted a sin bin, but I didn't think it warranted a send-off. I thought a send-off was a bit harsh.
His head shot back.
I think it was the power.
Yeah, it's the power of the hit.
That's just an Olam. I mean, how many people do we see that bounce off an Olam tackle like that? But I thought I thought, Wade, it was really hard to determine whether or not there was clear contact with the head, and that's why you've got to rely on those officials that have, as Buzz said, all the technology.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
'Cause I couldn't
let's
see.
not go down this path, Gerd,
I
because they
couldn't
have all
see.
that technology and still make
Yeah.
some odd decisions at
Well,
times.
did you guys see the game last night? And they made some decision. I forget what it was. And Jared Sutton raised his eyebrows when he disagreed with the bunker. Did you see that? It was
Yes.
crazy.
Well, even last week, like I remember the Canberra South game where Canberra absolutely dominated that game. But two of the tries that Canberra scored, the Tallis Duncan one and Cody Walker, they were both no tries. So it was one was a plain old double movement, and it's just. Like, I don't know. Anyway, let's not start. We were so positive with the Olympics, and now we're going negative.
I'm going to leave you with a tip. I reckon the NRL is going to put a bomb under the football department the off-season. They're going to have the summit that Wayne Bennett was talking about when he went public a few weeks back. And I think there's a possibility we'll find new people in charge and new people in the bunker, less people in the bunker.
So different system as well as different personalities.
Yeah, well, the problem is you got a dozen people who work the bunker every weekend, and they're all different. They've all got different opinions. You put 4 in there for the weekend, and they do 2 games each at least.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, there's more consistency.
It'll happen, I think.
Oh, I love it. All right, we'll save
They're
that.
going to blow up the bunker.
Well,
there you go.
In Perth, the Roosters 40, the Dolphins 34. Sam Walker was sensational. If you read his stats, which I will do for you right now for this game, he finished with 24 points, 2 tries, 6 from 6 conversions, 2 penalty goals, 63 run metres, 1 line break, 4 tackle breaks, 244 kicking metres from 10 kicks. It reads quite well, doesn't it?
He's a magician with the way he plays. He's so unorthodox. You know, we always sit on here and we give a lot of credit out, particularly to like our athletes in the game. You know, we always talk about the hammer, Angus Crichton and Liam Martin, how strong they've been and their physicality. But Sammy Walker, just his brilliance. It's like he's still a kid. I know we use this analogy a lot, but he's like a kid in the backyard. He just gets the ball, he looks up, sums up the situation, and then just, takes on a play where he thinks he can create an opportunity for his team. And a couple of chip and chases last night in the same half. And again, I didn't get to watch much of Alfie as a kid. He was a little bit just a bit early for me, but I did see his highlights and all his smart little kicking game, always setting up tries for his other players. And he's probably the closest, like Sammy Walker, another sort of Alfie that we've had in the game when you look at comparisons. There's no one quite like his style. He's a halfback, but he's his own halfback. He can't really replicate the way he plays. He's fantastic the way he backs himself and backs his skill, and it's uncanny how much it comes off for him.
Yeah. Buzz, you mentioned somebody else, though.
Well, before Alfie Langer, I grew up in love with Philip Blake and Stephen Turvey Mortimer. And they were so special. They had no game plan. It was instinct rugby league, and you couldn't plan against them because you never knew what they were doing, and they were chip and chasers like Walker were. They were blinding speed players.
Well, the thing with Walker, I don't even think he knows what he's going to do when he gets the ball.
No.
He just gets the ball. He sits on the back of the shape or wherever the game plan is, and then it's all right. I've received the ball now. He looks up and just goes, right, this is what I'm going to come up with.
Yeah, Gertz, just quickly, what I love about it is that, look, rugby league can get structured. You can have your hit-ups and your kick, your 5-hit and a kick. And I love it when people like Sam Walker go off the script. And, mate, you couldn't leave the TV last night.
Well, think about their last couple of years, boys, the Roosters, and how they've never just found that continuity with their attack. It always felt to me like they had sort of Radley playing first receiver, passing out the back of shape. Tedesco was always in there somewhere. They had a dominant 9 in Brandon Smith. And I don't know, they just never felt like they were coordinated enough. And everyone was talking about, this roster that they have and why weren't they performing. And then all of a sudden, Sammy Walker comes in, sort of, he struggled a little bit last year. Credit to him, worked on his defence, worked on those parts of his game that don't come so natural to him. And then Victor Radley ends up having to serve time for suspension or injury. Sammy Walker goes in there and changes the way the Roosters play. They all of a sudden, when Radley comes back, they can't have him at 13 because they don't want him to be getting the first ball off Sammy Walker before Sam, because Sam actually likes to get that ball. So they moved him onto an edge. That's worked for him. And, the only thing for the Roosters is, when they teams will now be going into games knowing that they just need to keep them down the other end of the field, and that's what Melbourne and the Panthers and that will do. And Sammy Walker's little kicking game becomes such a weapon that there'll be sides out there working really hard to make sure that they don't get in those areas of the field where he can use it.
Do rep teams, look for someone like that, or that someone who has got the solid game, he can get us from one end of the park to the other? He seems to be able to do that as well, but obviously not in quite so structured a way.
Well, with the rep teams, they look at halves, pairings, how they would work together. Now, I know Sam wears the 7 on his back, but he's that instinctive half where Keary at the Roosters, he'd be the bigger communicator and he'd be talking the team around the park. So it's not necessarily, your style of play. It's how you fit in with the other guy too. That's why it's, it's a halves pairing. But he could be fantastic with, he could struggle a little bit with Munster because the thing is when you put two guys like that, you need someone to be in charge and manage the game.
You need a parent.
Yeah, well, you need someone to be in charge and manage the game. But to do that, you need to sort of take away from some of your skill set which got you there in the first place. Like Sammy's ability to look down and sit on the short side and count the numbers is taken away because he's got to be at the back, maybe the forwards, and talking them to where they need to do. So it's all about the halves combination. But we've seen Queensland, particularly Billy, be so unorthodox with his bench. He might end up in a 14 jersey in the next couple of years.
Because Dearden and Munster could be their halves next year. But Sam's ready, isn't he? And this is if DCE gives it away. The big question for me is he's off contract at the Roosters. He's free to talk to rival franchises come November or October. And look, he's on 450, 500K now. And guys, what is he worth? And you're thinking they're going to lock him up 3 or 4 years. He'd have to be approaching $1 million, surely.
Well, he's worth what anyone will pay him, right? Like it's supply and demand. We always again talk about quality halves in the NRL and how much influence they have on their team. You only need to look at Jamal Fogarty and Adam Reynolds coming back into their respective teams and the effect they have straight away.
Yeah.
And Sammy's certainly getting that quality. And
well, Luke Keary's going too.
Luke Keary's going, Manu's going. Hargraves is going. So they've got the money to shore him up. And Sammy's only going to get better as well. Like the more he plays, the more experience he has.
More weight he puts on, the more physically he gets. Yeah, I'm with you, Wado. But I mean, if he's a tad under those top guys, so if he hasn't played rep, he hasn't won obviously premierships. So if he's sitting under those guys that are at 1.2, 1.3, well, he has to be around $1 million player, right? That's where he needs to sit, you'd say.
Well, you look at some of these desperate franchises, the clubs that are struggling to get off the bottom, and most of them need improvement around the playmaking area. But as you say, he's not a typical playmaker, is he? He's not going to be an organising sort of leader.
No, well, he's not going to go in there and, again, I'm only speculating. I don't know, haven't had much to do with him, but sure, he has a footy IQ and he definitely knows the game. He can count numbers and play the space as good as anyone. How he delivers that message to a team, how he communicates the game plan, that's a big part of being a halfback and, one of the best communicators in the team. But the ad-lib stuff out there on the field, you can't coach that. That's just Sammy playing footy.
The second try where he did a little dance around first was just absolutely brilliant.
Well, what about the Broncos? Reynolds, 1 year to go. Ipswich boy. Food for thought. It's a possible.
There'll be clubs out there interested in him.
There'll be.
Sure,
Yeah,
that's why we talk about what is he worth? What is he worth? Well, he's a quality playmaker coming onto the market with more potential to fulfil. He's worth whatever someone's willing to pay him. If someone comes out and wants to pay him $1.2 million to come to their club, well, he's worth $1.2 million.
But Buzz, would you be surprised if it got to that? If the Roosters allowed it to get to that point where he was on the open market?
Oh, look, the Roosters are working hard with his manager, Steve Gillis and Nick Politis. They've had a number of meetings and they can't sort of get close even on the money at this stage.
Oh, okay, yep.
But look, I think Sam and his family will appreciate that the fact that he came into the Roosters system has allowed him to develop his game in the manner in which he has, and I think there's a loyalty factor there too. I think he'd be prepared to take slightly unders to stay there. But Nick doesn't lose players he wants to keep, does he? Or very, very rarely. Maybe Swalehi to rugby, but
Roger.
Yeah, Roger went. Yeah, well, there you go.
All right, they got the job done, the Roosters. They seem to do that. They're I read today, the best team on the run into the finals post-Origin. In terms of over the last 10 years, their record is terrific after Origin. A lot of teams seem to fall in the hole there. I mean, we see Angus Crichton come around again playing brilliant footy post-Origin as well.
Tony, you're going a fair way back, but on the last couple of years, they've really struggled in the early part of the season, haven't they? And they've left their run, and they've come out and they've really caught fire at the back end of the season. Unfortunately, they've fired all their bullets and they get to the finals and they kind of go out. So at least this year, and I don't think they're not defending anywhere near their best at the moment. They're giving the opposition way too many opportunities, as we saw that with the Dolphins last night. And the really top echelon of sides will torch them in those situations. So they've got a bit of work to do in some of the areas of their game. But at least this year they're going to get there. They're going to be probably in the top 4. They get 2 bites at it. And they're going in fresh. In fresh, I mean, they haven't had to win. Every game hasn't been a final in the 5 or 6 weeks leading into the finals. That'll make a big difference for them.
All right, what about the other side of the equation, the Dolphins? Where do they sit? They're now at that 8. They may well hang on, given the teams below them face tough opposition this weekend. But it's just by the fingernails they're hanging on to the 8 at the moment. Do we reckon they can do it?
Yeah, well, it's going to be hard. They have the Dogs coming home who are fighting amongst that, the same amount of points. The Storm, Broncos who, on their day are still one of the best teams in the competition when they put it together. They just haven't been at all near their best for the majority of this season. So it's going to be tough. And we did a funny thing on the Thursday show before the game. We did the ladder predictor. We got on the NRL app, and you can go in there and you tip all the games on the way home, and it spits out your ladder. And I don't know if I was all there on Thursday night because I had the Dolphins actually missing out of the 8, but I had Canberra somehow slide up in the 6th spot. So
what did you do with St George? Remember you had trouble with St George last week?
Now I did my ladder predictor.
You're
they're
still
gone.
on the Flano.
They're out. Sorry, I spoke to Flano during the week. I gave him the bad news. Sorry.
I think he might have had an inkling.
So I had the Dolphins. And it's such a shame if they don't make the 8 because they've had a fantastic year. They're entrenched in the top 4 for the majority of it. I just think, they squeezed the most out of that team up there. Wayne Bennett had them going, and he had them playing as a real team, and they troubled a lot of sides throughout the year. And it's a shame if they don't go on and make the 8, but they just seem to maybe being run out of a little bit of petrol at the back end of the year, particularly when you come up against the teams like the Roosters who are, heading in that top 4. They've just found their extra gears. The Storm are going to be hard to beat. Yeah. Doggies are defending very, very well, and they look like they're surging towards the back end. So where we have these teams surging towards the final, it looks as if they're just holding on. And, unfortunately, after my ladder predictor, I had them.
You can't win one out of your last 6 games and expect to play in the finals. No. It just doesn't happen. I mean, you can talk about sides that will build the back end of their season, then run into the finals. But generally, if you've got sides that capitulate post-Origin, then it's really difficult to see those guys scraping into the 8 because you need momentum this time of year. You need confidence. Because once you come up against those sides that are playing with confidence, like there's sides there that'll be going into this final series thinking that they can actually win the premiership, and there'll be probably 5 or 6 sides going there thinking that if we get to the finals, we've done we've had a really successful season. Unfortunately, the Dolphins are probably they're coming up against a few of those sides in the next couple of weeks that are just playing just that little bit better at the moment with more confidence. And I think that's unfortunately going to be the end of the Dolphins' run.
You guys talk post-Origin, and look, I don't know how to raise this, but post-Wayne Bennett's decision to join the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and you'd know better than I, would this have an effect on the roster, knowing, look, it's official now, he's joined another club, he's making a lot of phone calls to the South boys and organising their rosters, Damien Cook being moved on? Look, I don't know, I'll ask you guys.
Well, it's a good point, Buzz, and I know that he's obviously operating, in recruitment and retention for the Rabbits. But I just wonder, I think the thing that would have disappointed most of the players would be the fact that they kind of knew that he was there short term, but a lot of them, I guess, would have formed real close relationships with him if they didn't have relationships with him before the season. Probably got really disappointed. They probably really enjoyed their time. Even nothing against Christian Wolf. They probably all like Christian as well. But they probably just really enjoyed their time under Wayne. And when he announces that he's not going to stay on, it hasn't been extended by the club, Well, the air might have gone out of the balloon, Buzz. Yeah, there would have been some disappointed boys there, and they're probably showing that with their performance.
I think, Tony, I think you could argue the other point on the flip side of that too, but Gerd, saying, Wayne Bennett was headhunted to start that franchise off, and everyone knew it was only a 2-year deal, and Christian Wolf was the succession plan, and they've done a fantastic job there. So the moment that it actually comes and the time for him is to move on, you can sort of go, well, he's done a good job. Let's do it for him. Let's get in the finals. Let's give him that reward before he moves on. He's done his job. He did what he was supposed to do. So let's send him off. So I think if we start looking at that, we're diving too deep into the matter. And
I'll give an example though, Wade. Tavita Pangai Jr., great signing. He was cooked and didn't play last night, but he's now off contract again. And the Dolphins are desperately trying to keep him. But Wayne is trying to take him to South as well. And that's where, in my view, it gets a little bit...
But let's be honest, Pangai Jr. was languishing around in reserve grade. Like, he came back, he went to boxing, he was doing nothing. And no doubt it was through Wayne's personal connection that he got to start in the Queensland Cup anyway, and to the club. So it's not as if the Dolphins themselves have gone out and recruited him. I think that would be personally a Wayne Bennett decision to get him there anyway. So,
but he hates Sydney, mate. You remember that headline? I hate Sydney. I left the Bulldogs.
Hey, Buzz, when you go through that lineup,
when you go through that, to do my halfbacks.
When you go through that Dolphins lineup and you watch them play over the last couple of weeks, I mean, to be fair, a lot of their victories of late have been really tight contests, haven't they? And
yeah, they
have.
They're not playing awful at all. And what Wayne Bennett has done with that franchise, I keep saying franchise, that club, I think is up there with anything he's achieved in rugby league. He won 6 titles at the Broncos with the Queensland Origin side and half the Kangaroos. He was expected to win. But to turn them into an overnight sensation, I'll call them, that he could pull together a side like that with Peter O'Sullivan, recruitment guru, is up there. And you know what? We had a meeting recently for Hall of Fame and Immortal, and I actually raised it at the meeting that should Wayne Bennett be considered for an Immortal. And while it's strictly only players, he has won 7 titles. He's coached 930 games. I said, what when he coaches 1,000 games? And look, it was knocked over, the idea, because it's a player thing.
He played on the wing.
For Australia, he did. He did.
He probably wouldn't get in there for that.
I'm thinking in the history of the game, who has made a contribution like that man?
Well, there almost needs to be a separate category because there's guys...
Well, it's Hall of Fame.
Yeah, is that prestigious enough, do you think, for the achievements and the contribution to the game? Is it, I don't know, maybe there's an external order of merit for someone like Rabs comes to mind, Wayne Bennett, people who had a massive contribution to the game, and which was different to playing the game for so long and being immortalised as one of the best ever to put boots on and get out there on the field. But contribution to the game.
Who has done more for rugby league than Wayne Bennett ever?
No, it's hard to tick them off.
You've got your Jack Gibsons and
Would you put Phil Gould up in that? Would you put Phil Gould up in there, Buzz?
I was
That's not a loaded question.
I was going to mention him after Rabs, but then I didn't want to leave.
Where are you coming from? Look, he's done a sensational job at Canterbury. The 5-year plan has been fast-tracked.
Absolutely. All right, we've got to get you to a break, though. But the rich get richer, the strong get stronger. What happens to those down the bottom? Do they just tootle around at that spot? How do we change it? That's next, Saturday Scrum. Beautiful day in Sydney for footy. Brisbane, of course, always beautiful. Yeah, has been cold, Gertz. Have you spent any time in an ice bath this week?
Always in the ice bath, Tony, and it's usually get the water down to about 6 or 7 degrees, so it's nice and chilly. But people that say that Queensland doesn't get cold, well, I mean, they got rocks in their head because it's under 10 degrees where I live, Tony, in the hinterland out there. So, yeah.
And how long do you spend in the ice bath?
Oh, well, that just depends. Usually a couple of 3-minute sets, reps. So 3
how
by
many
3.
reps?
Sometimes 3.
Wow.
Try and do 8 or 9, or sometimes up to 11 minutes in there.
Are you an ice bath kind of guy?
Oh, I never used to enjoy them, but I think it's a necessary evil.
Yeah.
During my playing career, I'm certainly not volunteering to jump in the ice bath now like girls. I'm done with that.
You're done with it.
The coldest I get at 6 a.m. in the golf course, mate.
Yeah, of course it is. All right. What are we going to do? Is it a problem? The fact that the teams at the top of the table stay at the top of the table. When somebody's available, that's where they like to head because it's all about premiership windows. Obviously, cash comes into it, but the idea of winning a premiership is such an attraction to any professional athlete, as you would know. But that leaves the teams at the bottom continue their struggle, and year after year, we've got the Tigers who are now looking very likely to pick up a wooden spoon for the third year in a row. How does it change?
Well, they've lost. They've lost. Who'd they lose? Stefano. Stefano to Melbourne. So that's 17th to first place.
Yep.
Last year they lost Sean Ball for 17th to top on the ladder.
Yep.
Parramatta, Blaze. He's gone to Penrith, 16th to the second club. The strong clubs are getting strong. The weak clubs are staying weak. And it, to me, shows the salary cap isn't working. Because these players are not leaving for money or for their wallets. They're leaving because there's a choice between playing for Benji or Bellyache, and there's an obvious choice there with respect to Benji, or they're leaving to play in the Penrith system. So it's not about money.
Well, Jerome Luai's leaving the Penrith system to go to the West Tigers.
One player.
But it is like you've only identified a couple. Like I disagree with you in the fact that. People go to Bellamy and they go to Cleary because of, what they're doing, like what their program they're running. So it's not necessarily about the club. It's about the people who are running the program. We look at the Bulldogs. They get Serrato in, Gus obviously with his plan, his recruitment. Everyone laughs in the off-season about signing 15 utilities. Where's everyone going to play? But they had a plan. They weren't worried necessarily about the player or his attributes. They were worried about the character. They had a vision. They understood what they wanted to do, and now they're doing it. And if they're a chance of making the top four. If they don't make the top four, I hope they come fifth or sixth and get a home semi and get 60,000, at a core stadium. So again, it's not necessarily about the money or the football. It's about the people understanding their role.
But it's always been the way, Wado, too, hasn't it? I mean, we're talking like it's something new, but, the amount of times that people went to the Broncos back in the day or went to good organisations to be coached by the right people that understood that it would enhance not just their winning percentage, their value, but also, their opportunity to play rep footy. So, Buzz, I agree with I think it's actually been happening for a long time, and we're just at a point now where, players are really understanding the value or the importance of those decisions, and I actually commend it.
Yeah, but tell me, guys, how are we going to lift the West Tigers off the bottom of the ladder? But Papa Leahy's left as well.
It's not our job it's not our job to lift up the West Tigers. The people in the West Tigers organisation to lift that organisation.
Yeah, but that's where I'm saying the salary cap is not working, guys, because they're spending as much money as every other club. Yet
but
they have an organised
players. They're spending more money on not as good players, and that's the situation they got in through administration and through retention and recruitment in the past, Buzz. And that's where we need to get better as a game. We need to make better decisions at that level. So
at the club level,
at club level, bring those players in. So they need to build environments where the players don't want to go anywhere, where they see opportunity, like Cam's done in 2 years. Like you look at the spine that the West Tigers are going to have. They're going to have Appy, Luai, Galvin and Buller next year. Now, I know there's a lot of players out there that if you've got a coach there with a really clear message that they're building something and they can sell that story, there's a lot of players that would want to play with that spine. That's by no means the worst spine in the competition.
Yeah, but they don't have a front rower, mate. They don't, that place
that'll
needs
happen. They've got some money.
Yeah.
There'll be a front row come on.
Yeah, but again,
but the whole point that I'm arguing with, they can't keep players.
Yeah, but they've got to get the right people in there to do the right jobs.
Well, if you think Shane Flanagan
sat on the sideline for how long? No one wanted to give him a shot because of some stuff that happened in his past. Dragons finally give him a shot. Everyone looks back and goes, Shane Flanagan, a wonderful coach. Like, he's done such a good job down there at the Dragons. Like, shocked me. We knew that was going to happen because he's a good coach.
Is St George an attractive option now? Because St George have been in the market for a lot of players and haven't landed one. Yeah. They haven't.
Well, they're still struggling.
Holmes is a hope.
They're struggling, but they're at the start of their journey, right?
Yeah.
And the Bulldogs went through this. The Bulldogs went through this journey, but they trusted in Gus's identification. They trusted in Cam Serraldo, and they're only just turning the corner. Like, it's not easy. Our game is not easy. You compete in one of the closest competition in the world, and you need to have the right people in the right place doing the right job that understand
Jack
their
Gibson
role.
said in the column, winning starts in the front office, having the people who can create, get the right coach, right high performance, all that sort of. But the other codes have different ideas. The AFL has a draft.
The draft, yeah. There's no appetite for a draft, obviously.
So the crap teams can get first choice of the best young player. Do you know what Sydney Rugby Union do in the Shoot Shield? Every player is graded on a point system. So if you're an international, you're 20 points. If you're a Super Rugby player, you're 15 points. If you're an Australian schoolboy, you're 10. Yeah, but, and you only get 100.
Yeah. But again,
I'm not saying it's our answer.
Why are we like that? Again,
that's kind of a handicapping
we're doing
system.
other people's jobs for them there. Yeah. We're giving these kids a rating system just to make it, okay, well, I don't even need to do any homework. I don't need to trust my talent identification. I don't want to get out there and do the legwork and go to the carnivals. I don't want to source over in New Zealand and see the best rugby players. Like we want to keep it, the strong clubs strong and the weak clubs trying to catch up to the strong clubs. We don't want to even it out for them, because as soon as we start pulling the top clubs down, the game suffers. We need the clubs at the bottom to get, innovative. How do you say it? They need to have innovation and creative to work out ways to get to the top, because as soon as we start trying to pull the top clubs down, the whole game, stagnates. We need to keep forging
and we need
ahead.
to learn from errors. Like, I mean, some of the deals that have been put in place by past management. So it wasn't Shane Richardson that put that deal in place. Was it for Uto Ikamanu to leave and walk out and those clauses? So I'm sure the West Tigers, they're not going to make those mistakes again. And I hope Parramatta, when Rolsey gets in there and says, hey, guys, like, we need to work together. There's the footy side of things and obviously the administration. And if we're not sort of coherently working, well, I'm not going to be able to do what I need to do to get this club off the bottom of the table. And you could see with their performance the other night. Now, I don't know whether or not Rolsey's having some sort of influence, but there's something going on. Their last 2 weeks have been a lot better than what they had been previously. And I know that they've got guys coming off in the next couple of years like Moses and like Brown. And all Rolsey can do in that situation, because he's inherited a serious problem, is make that club a place where people want to be. And that doesn't always necessarily mean with a lot of instant success. He just needs a clear vision. They've got a good roster. If he comes in and can be the coach that they want to play for, players won't want to leave when they get the opportunity to.
Yeah, we're getting excited about that win in New Zealand last night. But the bottom line is they've had the worst week ever. They've lost 3 of their SG Ball champions. They're not champions now, but they were champions of that division. And that is massive at a Western Sydney feeder club for that to happen.
Yeah. So who's held accountable for those sorts of things? Obviously, you can't blame current players and the current coaching staff for that, Buzz. So who's responsible for their pathways, and who's put all that in order, and who's put these contracts in place where these high-profile players can, at the drop of a hat, mid-season, start talking to other clubs?
Well, they thought it was the coach's performance, and so that's why Brad Arthur was sent packing. I think that their head of football, Mark O'Neill, their CEO, Jim Sarantounis, and their chair, Sean McElduff, need to have a good, long, hard look at themselves and work out where it's gone wrong.
Yeah. How long have they been in the chair for?
Sorry, mate?
How long have they been in the chair for? How long have they been out there making calls?
Since the salary cap scandal when they got rid of the old board, 5 years ago?
So long enough.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, maybe they'll have a chance, the Tigers, of jumping off the bottom when we get to a 20-team competition. It might be better for them. This is the Saturday Scrum. Wado Girds, Buzz, Tony Squires with you on this Saturday. All right, we're talking about the Tigers, about holding up that ladder from the bottom and how can we make that change. Well, it didn't change in terms of their result. The Cowboys 48, the Tigers 30. They've spent discipline, as Benji has said, has been a problem for them all year. They spend so much time playing with 12 players. And it happened again with Justin Olam being sent off and their discipline going out the window. But they kept coming back at the Cowboys. Let's look at the Cowboys first, because they're the ones who are trying to get through to that top 8. What do you believe comes out of that game for them?
Well, I think for them it just, again, confirms where they are at the moment. Like, they're still in the hunt for the top 4, and they ultimately got the job done. They came down on a cold Thursday night off the back of a hard Origin series for a lot of their players who are still probably in and out of full training. and they got the result. They got the result that they needed, but I don't think they'd be overly happy with the performance. Like the question mark with the Cowboys, isn't their attack. Like a team with Drinkwater, Val Holmes, Murray Taulagi, even their back rowers, Nenai and Lukey, and the young kid they brought off the bench. Is it Finifiaki?
Yeah, Finifidiaku.
Yeah, mate, he is unbelievable. Just a powerhouse off the bench. So it's not their attack, but to leak 30 points against the 12-man.
Yeah.
Well, say for 30 minutes against a 12-man team, he's Toddy Payton in their team, and Chatty Townsend will be on him before he's won a premiership. Ian Cronulla, he knows what it takes at the back end of the year to win a comp, and you can't be leaking 30 points against 12 men. So they need to tighten that up, but. Again, they're still sort of massaging their players off the back of that Origin series. So, expect some improvement in them. But they're right in the hunt for the top 4.
Yeah, they've got a good run home, Gerd, so they will be eyeing off the top 4.
It's a tough place to win, Leichhardt. Always a lot of emotion there. And I know things sort of didn't go the Tigers' way in relation to having Olam sent off. But, sometimes you just got to get out there, get the job done. They got the Broncos next week. I'm sure that a lot of them would have been focused on that. That's a big game up there, the local derby up there in North Queensland. I just still believe they're just they might finish in the top 4, but for mine, they just don't have the quality, and they probably just haven't built their season to go on for a premiership tilt. You just see teams throughout the year that are working towards something, and they've just been too inconsistent to mine. They haven't laid the foundations, I don't believe, to go in and have a successful finals campaign.
Hey, Gertz, we talk about the Origin strain. They provided more players to New South Wales and Queensland than any other club in the comp. They had 6 players in that series, and that's hard work to.
Manage. Really hard to manage that. Really hard to manage that, Buzz. And you've seen some of the fatigue in some of those guys, like Val Holmes the other night. I don't, always been just a really solid defender, never an outstanding defender, but some of the lapses in concentration for Val just to let some tries go past him, and he's obviously had a difficult week, being told that he can look around, which might be a good thing or a bad thing for him personally, but. Yeah, just you could see some fatigue, Buzz, on the back of what you're saying in some of their players for sure.
I was talking to a couple of people up there last week, and all they were talking about was they had a bye up their sleeve, and how desperately needed that was for a good, proper freshen up, down tools for a week, get out in the sun, enjoy yourselves, spend time with
Bali
the family.
Or Fiji.
Bali or Fiji, yeah.
Well, Ruben Cotter didn't play, and
Close.
Tamalolo's out, so they'll get those guys back, and they're very experienced, and they're guys that'll enjoy another finals sort of series campaign. So, yeah, there's certainly some bonuses for the Cowboys in the back end of the season.
We mentioned Justin Olam and that send-off, and we're discussing whether it should be a sin bin or a send-off. Why don't we have a listen to Todd Payton and what he had to say about that decision?
Heelan's okay, but he's very fortunate he hasn't got a broken jaw. Like, we flushed him right on the end of his chin. Heelan's a big body. I don't think Justin's that big, so I thought it was the right call. I said it initially straight in the box. I don't know how the referees missed it right at that very moment. It had to be referred to by the bunker. There's a touchy right there, and the referee he called play on. So, yeah, I thought it was the right call in the end.
Yeah, he's pretty clear on it, that Justin Holden...
Yeah, of course he's defending his play. He's always, benefited their team. So he's going to go in for his team. I disagree. I don't think it was a send-off. I think there was probably some high contact, more from his arm than his actual shoulder as it wrapped around. And it was the force that he hit him. You've got to take into account the whiplash. Like, your head automatically comes forward. So if I hit someone, at chest level...
Just line Buzz up there for us, Wade. Give us an example.
And
please don't.
Head whiplashes.
Please don't.
It's going to be high contact. I would have been happy with 10 in the bin and not a send-off, but, of course.
In this day and age where we're concerned so much, quite rightly, about head and concussion, you're watching at home on the TV, his head bounced.
All right,
well,
okay, but
tell
you sorry, Buzz.
No, look, he wasn't knocked out, and it wasn't Swalihi on Reece Walsh. As far as the outcome of the tackle.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I agree with Wade that sin bin probably would have been sufficient. But
we're never going to, we always go down this player welfare, and in this day and age, right, we're playing a high-speed contact game, that is built on physicality and collision. We're never going to be able to get the injuries out of the game. Like, look at Lindsay Collins and Victor Adley last night. Like, two
They both should
experienced.
have been binned.
Yeah, what are you going to send them
Both
both
get 4
off?
weeks
They're not
each for
taking
being
into each other's
careless
account.
with
Like,
one another.
these guys are at the top of their games. International Origin players. They're out there fatigued, making decisions under pressure, and putting a lot of force into every decision that they make. And it only takes a split second and something to move where it's not meant to move, or you didn't anticipate where it was going to go, which is exactly what happened last night.
Justin left the ground.
I don't think he did he?
I think he left the ground.
Look, he had plenty of
Well,
other.
you don't look, he's pretty tall.
He
So
could
to
have
get up around
launched
the head.
He could have launched himself lower.
Yeah.
And that was the.
That's where they rule. I don't. I get it, player welfare. I'm always pro player, but it's a hard game we play, and sometimes accidents are going to happen, and mistakes are going to happen
Were you ever
under
sent off?
pressure. I got put in the bin once in my career. It was back
that
into my
right?
Yeah,
career.
very late. I remember.
What about you, Gerd? You ever sent off?
Never sent off,
But-
binned a couple of times, but no.
I would say
You could do anything back in
I
my
would
day, Buzz,
say,
not
yeah,
now.
that's what I was going to say. Like, if I played the way I played throughout my whole career
You'd be gone
under
now.
these rules, I would have probably spent a lot more time.
What
on
did you
sideline.
get binned for? Giving lip or anything? What did you get binned for?
Yeah, lip once and a couple of professional fouls. And then I gave lip.
Just to top it off.
Double lip.
I love it. Anyway, that was the result. 48-30. The Cowboys over the Tigers. Still alive for the Cowboys. Still at the bottom table for the Tigers. Plenty to come. This is the Saturday Scrum.
Scrum.
Chet Townsend's going to join us just after 1 o'clock this afternoon. Before then, bit of this action.
Welcome to Tony's Spotting Quiz.
Guess what the theme would be?
Olympics.
Yes, my friend. It is Olympics. It is.
Is that a
Olympics.
point?
Well, you know what? Because I robbed you
just
last
give him
week.
one.
Because who did I give the win
you
to?
gave
I
it
then
to
gave it
Buzz,
to
but
Buzz
it was-
because he was
that's-
there.
yeah, it
When
just-
you were actually on
it was a
fire.
donation.
Mate,
but
you're saying you sat up all night, every night.
not every night. No, not every night.
You're paying $1.04 to win this.
Yeah, that's
probably-
right, Buzz. I'm
Yeah.
with you.
You probably are. All right, your names will be your buzzers. Who have you got for me, Gerds?
Oh, Tony, unfortunately, Skipper's been superseded this week. There's been a loss in my family through the week. We lost one of our chickens.
Oh, no.
So Frankie was eaten by a fox, unfortunately.
Jeez.
And so
Circle
today,
life,
in
Gerds.
honour of Frankie, she was a beautiful chicken, lovely nature, probably second in the pecking order.
Really?
So there's been
Pardon the
some,
pun.
the hierarchy's changed.
Good
It's been
layer?
an interesting week.
It was
Great layer, beautiful egg,
Yeah.
great colouring.
No.
Anyway,
And
so
you let
today-
a fox get into the
Yeah,
chicken
wow.
house.
Well,
How does that happen?
It's a long story. So the chicken was left out. So
Oh, no!
There's
So
a
the
full
fox didn't get in
investigation.
their house.
There's a full
That's
investigation, Tony.
That's almost RSPCA.
Yeah.
What,
So
what are the girls thinking?
the
Were they
chicken-
crushed?
We didn't can our chickens, Tony, unfortunately,
Yeah.
and one paid the onward price.
I love
Anyway,
how many
so
puns
today-
you got in there. Pecking order, count my chickens, fox in the hen house. There was so many puns in that. I love it.
Are the girls okay?
Took them a few days, Tony. I buried Frankie, next to the compost there.
How much?
Oh, God.
okay.
I
There wasn't
thought you were
enough.
going to say you cooked.
Yeah, I was going to
Frankie.
say there wasn't enough left to put in the pot.
There wasn't enough left, Buzz, unfortunately.
Not even a
It's got a
drumstick.
decent
Not even a
feed out of it, which
drumstick.
is great because
Yeah.
it's the circle of life, Tony.
It is the circle of life.
It's the circle of life.
Oh, and I'm much better than Frankie rather than my dead dog Skipper, so that makes me feel so much better.
Frankie's up.
Who are you going from the last night's game?
I called him a magician, so I'm going to go Samuel Dumbledore Walker.
And is that going to be
I
your
can't
buzzer?
use that, it's too long, but I'm going to Sam
Go
Walker.
Sam Walker. Sam Walker's good. And you buzzing with Buzz?
Buzz.
Yeah, I love it. All right, here we go. Which swimmer swam, according to some, faster than humanly possible?
Sam Walker.
Yes, Sam Walker.
Pan.
I'm going to take Pan Zhanlei.
There you go.
The Chinese in the 100-metre freestyle broke a world record on a pool that is notoriously slow
By body length.
by body length.
Wow.
Extreme.
What's the difference? I love this question. What's the difference in paddles between canoe and kayak events?
Sam Walker.
Yes, Sam.
It's just the paddle's just on one end in the canoe, and then it's got two ends on the kayak.
No, we need a technical term, Tony. I could
Is
have
that-
told you that.
Could you?
It's got
Could
two.
you honestly?
It's got two paddles in a kayak, one paddle in a canoe.
Yes, the canoe paddle has a single blade.
There you go.
Single
Correct.
blade, double blade.
Yeah. Thanks, Frankie. I'm glad that you didn't even buzz in. All right, question number 3. Do you recognise this anthem? No, why would you? It hasn't been played. They won a gold medal. Slovakia. Sorry for all our friends from Slovakia.
Tony.
How many gold medals does Australia currently
Sam
have?
Walker.
Well,
Sorry,
yes.
go on.
Who was it?
Good.
That was me.
Yes.
Oh, I think 11.
You're correct with 11. How many have been won by male athletes?
Buzz.
Yes, Buzz.
4.
One. Only one.
Oh, really?
One.
Yeah, Cam
Aussie
McAvoy.
women just dominating. Good on you,
Dominating.
girls.
Speaking of, who are the Aussie Stingers?
Sam Walker.
Yes, Sam Walker.
Are they? No.
Water polo.
Frankie.
They are.
they water polo?
Buzz didn't use his buzz, but they are the Australian water polo
I thought that
team.
was a Stingrays.
What is Mark Tubby Taylor's field of expertise at the games?
Oh, actually,
diving.
Frankie, diving.
Air conditioning.
Air conditioning.
Very hot over there.
That's a very good
Very
line.
hot over there.
right.
He's caught flack, but you know what? I think he's been great. I've watched him. I reckon he's been sensational. And finally, who is the coach of the Matildas?
Walker.
Yeah.
No one.
No one is correct.
Yeah,
Tony
wow.
Gustafsson has been sacked. You were sensational. You get
well
the
done,
win.
Sammy.